I remember as a little boy, as a young fella, I would say, 12, 13, 14, a band by the name of Silver Stars came out in the area where my family were living, came out in Robert Street, Colville Street, Cipriani Boulevard, in that area, Silver Stars. And the young people of the day, it was a real treasure to know of Silver Stars, to hear of Silver Stars, and boast of an association of Silver Stars. And to me, that made the band very distinctive. Your name, you were one of the leaders of the band. Would you care to tell me a little about that?
Well, actually, it was an era, I would say, in the early 50s, when Silver Stars came into being. They formed around 1950 under the name of Valentinos. And this were just formed by a few college boys and their immediate associates. Now, at that particular time, you find that there was a sort of social standing here where that the boys that invented the pan, like the All-Stars and Hilliard and, Hill 60 and you go on and on, they sort of treated us as like outcasts. We were just little, they used to call us white boys, college boys trying to play pan. On the other hand, you found that we got pressures from our peers, for instance, our fathers, and they didn't like the idea too much, because they felt that this was associated with already the class of fellas you should. So, in the end, really, we found that the best thing to do was to get a bunch of college boys, a bunch of fellas by yourself, and get some second-hand pants from any man or somebody, and have some little thing going in your yard, And it worked from there. And at that particular time, there were a few bands, Silver Stars, Dixieland particularly, that really catered to this sort of middle class sort of thing where mothers wouldn't let their daughters play unless they knew the boys in the band sort of thing.
I used to go to St. Mary's at the time. And one day the principal, Father Brett, head of the college, called out the whole college and made a big speech about any member of this college caught in steam band activities would be expelled. So we had to go underground. We went underground, still playing pan in the back of our yard, parents' yard and so. And even carnival days, while you're going to college and you're meeting pan, I remember we passed in front of St. Mary's College on a Monday, and all the priests stand up there looking out, see they recognize everyone. So you pull your sombrero down, so like that. And you beat until you get out of the days at home. So that was the atmosphere at the time. I got a chance in 68. There was a guy came here from Bermuda to look for 4 steam iron guys to go back to the United Kingdom in Bermuda. So he came to me by the Silver Stars yard in trouble. He said, Junior, Silver Stars has a big band and thing. I'm looking for 4 fellas to go. I said, sure. Look at the band, 19 fellas, you'll get 4. So, but over the carnival season, over the 2 days carnival, I'm working at Port Authority for 13 years, government job, and then here this guy asked me 4 fellas to go. I said, wait. So I could pick 3 and go to. So the guy was shocked when I said, I'll go. So, but it was a good thing because it was 9 months steady contract in Bermuda. And then the last 3 months when it got cold, they came back to Trinidad for the Christmas and Carnival season. So it worked out for different. So we worked there 2 years, but we played like an opening act thing, a 6-piece opening act for some real top stars at the time, Brooke Benton, Mel Carter, the Shirelles, this one, that one, so.
I know Junior styling. Junior was a man for advance because, even his arrangement, they didn't really pick up on his arrangement, because he was far advanced.
So Junior had different songs that were different because he would give you like a party tune like Dr. Zhivago, but then he could give you Jules Overture, his range was crazy.
So he did a lot of music on his own. Robbers Bolero, more steel, plenty tunes that he arranged for himself.
You can't think Junior Pouchet without going back to the bomb days, the days of the bomb tune. The Elizabeth Serenade, the Dr. Zhivago, the Ghost Riders in the Sky, and those tunes that Junior did. And fortunately, there's still pieces that Silver Stars play today. Junior had a way of taking the popular music at the time and creating it into a bomb style, and he was very effective with it. Definitely one of the popular arrangers at that time.
The panorama that we know now is not the panorama that it was in 1970 something. The price was, I think, a bottle of rum. So when you're trying to build your name out there as an arranger or trying to build the band, you would have looked at panorama as just a gig. I think the real competition back in the day was with the bomb tune. And Junior in particular, and I think it's public knowledge, the respect he had for Neville Jules. Junior loved bomb competition. And then as a result, Edwin loved the bomb competition too. And they both excelled in it. And Silver Stars is known for that, for excelling in the bomb competition. And I think that's maybe where the focus was. Now, it seems that the focus would be on where the band plays in panorama, regardless of what your stage side year looks like. People always say, well, where will they come? You know, but I think that before that shift happened, back in those days, maybe playing on the road for panorama, Pan was a bigger part of Carnival than it was then. Even when Silver Stars was with Edwin, before Silver Stars entered back into panorama, you couldn't have a fete, you couldn't get a bar license if you didn't have a steel band performing in your fete. The focus of Carnival has shifted now to DJs, because you see brass bands used to play on trucks on the road. So there were plenty different ways that a band could be part of Carnival and could be popular throughout the year, performing in parties, whether the band was playing in mass camp every night. Now it would seem that the biggest thing a band could do is play high in panorama.
This guy from Disney comes and hears, and he said, I'm looking for a steel band to do in Florida. So he listens to the band. He said, this is what I want. But I only want 6. You know, to go. Now it's 11 of us, including Hollis and congas and all. 11 of us, chili and drums and yeah, all the fellas play with there. So when the time comes, I say, fellas, we getting a job to go to. I couldn't get 6 out of the 11. Nobody want to leave to go Florida. That's our old foggy state. That's what we're going down there for. I mean, we here in Hollywood. I see Kirk Douglas in the supermarket yesterday. You want me to leave that and go down, you know? So, but the Columbus spirit in me, boy, you know? There's a old saying, you can never discover new lands if you don't leave sight of the shore. The contract was offered for 3 months. So I'm leaving a permanent job in the bank to go for 3 months. But I was so satisfied. I was so confident that Disney would like the band and think, how they gonna think after 3 months? They kept us for 29 years.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. They didn't want us to go at all.
I played on a junior when he came back. Yeah, but when the band left to go Disney World, right? Junior had leave and Edwin came back. I came back with Edwin started back the band.
Starting off playing under Junior going away, the band going through a period of dormancy, and then you becoming the new arranger. Take us through that transition.
Well, that was extremely difficult because back in those days, Junior Pouchet was Silver Stars and Silver Stars was Junior Pouchet. What happened, Junior got a contract in Bermuda and later in the States, and every time the band had to rehearse, the guys didn't want anybody else to arrange music for them. Junior was the only person they were allowed to arrange music. So they played the same songs for 1 year until Junior came back and did the same thing. Every year the band would get smaller and guys would go to other bands until eventually, well, it stopped. Oh, I got involved was 10 years later, 1986, Junior decided to start back the band. And it was a good time to start back because it had a whole generation of players who were not dependent on Junior. It was ready to accept new arrangers. And I accidentally ended up being one of them. I wasn't supposed to be the arranger of the band. It was Lloyd Payne, Sonny Otley, and Michael Figueroa. I was on the started back the band, and I was put there to assist them, whatever they wanted to do, if I could assist them. I didn't know I would end up arranging for the band. But they all went away, and that was it.
Edwin was, for me, the person that didn't drink rum, but in a way drink rum, like you could sit down and lime like in a bar with. I am addicted to storytelling. Edwin was that person for me in the pan.
That man could turn anything from bad to good. That the kind of man he is, you know. He don't sit down or quarrel or lost on that. He go forward, you know. That mustn't block him, you know, like kind of.
Who he was different. He was kind of like quiet but intimidating at the same time. You know, plenty no nonsense somewhere. It was all in all, it was a different. It was different. He was the most, how to put it, quiet, loud people. I know. That makes sense.
When I came here, Edwin was like, "What pan do you play?" I was like, "I get a pan." He said, "Come, I have a tenner for you."
You know, I came in here young and I got treated like one of his sons.
I was one of those young ones who learned the dance move first and then the notes after. He would always say there's time for that after. Get your notes and then dance.
Edwin would have been like a second father to me. He would have schooled me when we needed school. Then when it's time to drink, we drinking. Double dog, I'll never forget. Yeah, man. Uncle Eddie, Papa Eddie.
I grew up in Pan. I grew up in Pan, here in Pan, morning, noon, and night. If I have to really try to pinpoint it, I will think I was most probably 5 or 6 years old when Silver Stars was actually practicing in our backyard for some festival or something like that. And I remember being fascinated with the Pan. And after they rehearse and they leave and they go home, I would take one of the sticks, try to pick out what they were playing on the Pan. I've been told by my mom that I used to do it, but I can't really remember playing it. But I was always fascinated by the pan, and I always wanted to be like one of those guys playing pan. My involvement with Silver Stars, and a lot of people think because of having a brother like Junior Pouchet to automatically gravitate towards this, but my involvement in Silver Stars then and now is still closely linked to my mom. This is the band that she loved, and I was really close to her, so there's a connection here that money can't buy.
Silver Stars was everything to him. Silver Stars was everything to Edwin. And he spent his entire life dedicating to the success of the band. So when people would say things like, he was a serious fellow when it came to this or when it came to that, there were many rules that Junior had implemented that Edwin carried on. And he was very serious about the rules because discipline is what will cause us to have the success that we have. And without that, we were nothing. As I mentioned before, he had dedicated so much of his life to it, so he did take it seriously. So when it came to Silver Stars, it was no joking matter. There was no skylarking. And as long as I know myself, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, my father has to go practice. I don't remember a time that was not a thing. Took practice seriously, took the music seriously. At a certain time, he had to leave home, punctual. And I think that when it came time to Silver Stars, there was no joking matter. And the results show for themselves. The reassurance that you had with Edwin getting the job done, doing the right thing for the band. You could rely on Edwin.
He stuck up for discipline, but he was always about, you must enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, it doesn't make sense.
In terms of legendary players, we had to talk about Junior Gulcharan. Everybody knows Pepe from Silver Stars. If you go to another band, from the elder to the young people, they know Pepe's existence.
Yeah, I could say about 50 years, you know. I come in here when about 1917 or something. Yeah, I go down over 50 years because I didn't dream that year yet, and my daughter is 40-something years already. And I was a young fella playing in the band.
I know Pepe so long, but I know Pepe as Uncle Pepe,
The one person who won't stay still for the percussion solo in the Pepe have to dance.
Well, I was by Invaders, and one fella by the name of Ronnie Pie, he come and tell me, Pepe, they want some players down here by Sylvester because they know about the band. I hear we came back on a tune called Back in Town, and I live in Invaders, and I came down here. We had a struggle, but you know, I didn't come here because I come here because I like it, because when I meet the fellas and them, I get to like the band, so I end up living in Invaders and come down here, and from that I never turn back, you know. I stay with Silver Stars, I too. After we play this band, we didn't know stands, you know. It's motor tire and, you know, only them we have to take a tire and play band, you know. We didn't have no set of facilities. You know, the yard was holding, half of the Silver Stars band was up in when they gave it away, was up in St. Anne's, you know, and when we came back, we had make new pants, you know.
I think what made things so hard for Edwin at the very beginning was the fact that Junior was so colossal in his talent. Junior was such an amazing arranger. And also too, Junior kind of set the pace for the Silver Stars that we have now. The discipline, the music, everything that was Silver Stars. You know, he kind of was one of the people who kind of was trailblazing the direction that we were heading in. And then he got the contract on Disney World, which in itself is amazing as well. And Edwin, coming after, was kind of looked at like, oh, Junior's little brother. Like, that's cute, you know? So it was hard for him to get the respect coming after Junior, with Junior being as great as he was. I think for him, it was very important for him to have his own style of music. So while he was inspired by Junior, he wanted to be his own person. Edwin worked very hard at creating his own style. He actually sat down and made sure that what he was doing was unique to him. It was unique to his style that he wanted to bring to the band as an arranger. And, you know, mind you, Edwin and Junior used to speak on the phone like every week. They were very close, but he was his own person. And it was difficult for him to separate himself and for people to see that he was his own entity, his own talent. Also to looking at Silver Stars now, the yard that we have now, the band that we have now, the patterns that we have now, we didn't have those things when he started the band. It was almost like he was starting from scratch, because there was a break in between when Junior had went away and when he had started back. He had to get all new players. Really and truly, the level of determination, sacrifice, and how hard it was for him to not only prove himself better than his brother, but to prove himself, you know, in the pan community. You don't win Panorama just so, or you don't get anything just so. You kind of have to prove that you're worth your salt.
This is our yard, this is our steel drums, and everything else, you know, preparing for Panorama and so. And my brother is doing quite a fantastic job now, because he's the leader and arranger of the band right now. So I'm here to support him. You know, in all ways possible. So he'll take the big prize.
When you look through the history of the band and your involvement over the years, what are some of the things that stand out in your mind, either good or bad?
The good is a lot of personal things, like my accomplishment in doing 1 or 2 numbers for the band. I'm very happy about seeing where the band has come from when we started back in 1986 with 4 guys to winning quite a few minor and national titles. Those are the high points of it.
I remember a time we sit down by the, he and I and John, we sit down by the Four Bank there. And he was telling me, he said, Pepe, if I get a caliber players, I could go Panama and match them up, you know. Because he asked me something, he said, Pepe, who win medium band? And I couldn't answer. He said, medium band, you don't have respect nobody, you don't really study medium band. So I really need to go from medium to large. Because he dominated medium. And when he wanted more pan, human guppy bang, I remember telling him, I said, Edwin, you're making a mistake. You're leaving medium to go large. They won't put you in for the Exodus and you call the big band 5 bands. And when you tell human guppy bang, I'm not going to no tap at the back. I am going to lose. I coming up. So even though I make it, I don't want to lose. They have to lose.
Edwin was like, I'm gonna go up in large and really rock that show. And I was like, Edwin, why are you doing that? Like, we winning down here. Like, why we don't just keep winning? And he was like, no, why win down here and we could win up there? And that was an argument that Edwin and I had. And I understood leadership from him in that case because he would have stood his ground and I didn't see where he was coming from. But the results showed where he was coming from.
At them times, it had the traditional big fives. And the first year, we mashed up the big five. Next two, he win, and then unfortunately, you know, well, he got sick.
It was a big thing to see that he just come and mash it between them.
I just felt like we had worked so hard to reach to that point. And everything felt like it was against us, you know. And we didn't even have enough money to tune the pants. We were the dark horse in the race. And I was so accustomed to Silver Stars and fight down or, you know, always knowing that we weren't always placed where Edwin deserved to be. When they were calling out, when I hear number 2, I said, I didn't hear Silver Stars, what they call them, and I didn't hear what number they reached, when they had reached 3rd. I said, I didn't hear Silver Stars' name, but did I miss it? First, I was so accustomed. And then it hit me and I was in shock. Like, Silver Stars win Panorama? It was absolute mayhem. That's the only way that I could describe this to you.
Walk across by the bar to buy 2 beers and hear the results and tell 2 stock bottles in here and Nelly Lanalaka. And we block Tragedy Road. Good times.
Silver Stars took control of Tragedy Road. Pepe parked his car in the middle of the road and was playing the semi-final recording on a loop. Like just over and over and over. And no cars could pass because Pepe's car is on one side and players had taken down all the decorations from the racks and were jumping up in the road and just celebrating. It was really a moment, like I said, we worked so hard for this, coming from not even being in Panorama the moment, climbing our way up from medium and facing all adversity and coming to mash up that big 5 that was so respected in the Panorama. And when we finally heard our name called out, it's crazy. And all the players, so when the rocks came back in the yard, they were obviously not organized in any form or fashion. And everybody got behind their pan and started playing it at the same time. Of course, the balance was awful, but that's just how everybody felt in the moment. I mean, I think Pepe's car was still outside, I don't know. But it was just a great celebration. We've been extremely blessed to be working with the same sponsors for almost 15 years now. I think that what is special about the relationship that we have with Nutrien, formerly known as PCS Nitrogen, is that they're very invested in what happens in the band. And they are extremely involved with a lot of the decision making. They're very supportive in competitions, whether we have Parang and Steel, anything that we do, they're definitely part of it. They're with us, offering that support. You know, it's not just to say that they're the sponsor, but they're not really involved in what's happening in the band. Mr. Welch was really the determining factor because you know, Mr. Welch loved Pan so much that you could just tell that his dedication to making Silver Stars better, to making the band better, the yard better, was almost on par with Edwin's vision. The Silver Stars that we know now is greatly in part to some of the work that we would have done with PCS, you know, bringing us really and truly on that international level.
For Battle Zone in 2010, it was a little more intense than 2009 because in 2009, we won. So, you know, everybody is looking at Silver Stars now. And at that time, too, another important factor was that Cats and Jammers was in the picture as well with Edwin. They would have come third that year when we won, and he was arranging for Cats and Jammers again in the medium. The rehearsals was intense. We had to split Edwin between the two bands, but Cats and Jammers was playing a song called Lightning Strikes Twice. And the reason why that song was actually composed like for Silver Stars, because we won and people was like, that's a fluke, that's just a once in a lifetime thing. And when we heard the two songs, one was Lightning Strike Twice and the next was Battle Zone. And we were like, I understand Lightning Strike Twice, but Battle Zone song's a bit more dynamic. And the band insisted, they were like, Battle Zone it is. And we started to take the music for Battle Zone. But one thing Edwin would do is he would do the verse and chorus for both songs for Silver Stars first, and then let us pick what it is we want to do. So we selected Battle Zone. We went into the preliminaries, and I remember when the judges passed for preliminaries in the Panyard, they would go from either one end of Porterswain or the next end. That year they came from on the Dry River side. And by time they reached the phase 2, because after we played, we would go down to the other bands. And I remember going down to phase 2. I remember a lady making the comment saying, because phase 2 was playing Panami, and the lady was like, no, all you're coming with, you know, because bombs dropping down on track, reach there by Silver Stars. And we just went in the semi-finals, we ran second. And then by time the finals, once Edwin put down that introduction on the introduction, all he did was extended the introduction when that time came. And once he put down that introduction, all hell broke loose in the yard because it was like ta ta da da. He was, again, that was him showing that he was into the whole movie. He made Panorama a movie, and it was just amazing. And by that time, when Silver Stars played, it was clear to us after performing, from the minute we got that, there was this grand 5-second pause. From the minute, because we were busting going straight up to the stage on the track. I don't know if you all remember, everybody in Silver Stars was just making a drop all the time. I was a nervous wreck. And from the minute that drop came out clear on the stage, no mistake happened. And may I point out that when we paused, my cello stick flew out my hand and landed in a tenor pan below me in time where everybody returned. You know what it is if I had made Silver Stars bus?
Battle Zone, the one and only Battle Zone. I will never forget that song. When we won, Jelani picked me up from in the Panyard and ran straight outside with me because I was tiny. I was 13, and that was it. After that, it was a memory, a blur, because we went straight into Juve practice right after.
I was Battle Zone. Like, Edwin had it in his head to make sure that they know we win on purpose this time. But the first one they say was a fluke. Second one was, they couldn't touch that one.
I think from the crowd response, we knew, from the time we were finished playing, we knew we were going to take that title again. Well, yeah, Silver Stars was like a trendsetter for that era that Edwin created in Panorama. And if you know anything about the evolution of Panorama, every decade or so it evolved. Panorama evolved over the years. And by 2009, 2010, when Edwin introduced like the dancing and the theatrics and the costuming and the whole works on stage, I remember at that time, not necessarily everybody, especially in the large bands, really accepted it.
Edwin wasn't afraid to move with the times. That was his biggest. I guess that we had on everybody, he was moving with the times. He wasn't waiting around and staying in that bubble.
Edwin, using Junior's philosophy but swinging it to his own style in the panorama. Edwin believed in the forward ever, backward never, meaning no, he didn't get rid of the old music because it was the popular one, and we had a following that wanted that as well. But Edwin then took the popular music of the day and did the same thing.
We have a lot of young people in the band. I don't know where they come from, but they are attracted to Silver Stars because we are playing not so much in traditional, long-time pan music, especially in the numbers that we played, selection. We play a lot of up-to-date music. I'm not saying the best thing, but that's what they want. And that's where I think fans should be going. We can't be holding on to the golden era, which is the 60s to the 80s. We can't be doing that anymore. We have to move on so the young people can relate to what we're doing. They have a young generation now. And if you want to attract them to the pan music, you have to play music that they know and they want to play.
All the young players wanted to play on Edwin, everybody. It was like, he playing young people music, he not playing them old people music like other bands.
I remember in 2010 when he did I Got a Feeling for Pan in the 21st Century. It was a popular tune, it was the biggest song for that year. And it's something that mashed up the place. I remember Silver Stars getting a standing ovation for that in Pan in the 21st Century. He even included it in the panorama. At that time, people were composing pan songs. All the arrangers composing their own music. So Edwin was like, all right, if you're composing, we compose, and I gonna compose, and Edwin composed and win with his own composition.
Pan tunes died before him, but he killed them. He finished, killed them off.
If Edwin was alive today and we went down the Soca Road, Edwin would have gone there and he would have drama them the same way, because that's what Edwin did. In that 11 years that Edwin really made a statement in a region before he fell ill, Edwin won 8 competitions, and all of them was basically choosing something that was popular by the people as well and really flinging it out there for them.
He had a way about him that he always knew the right tunes to pick for Silver Stars. He had a great knowledge of different types of music. He's a forward-thinking person, trendsetter. He would think about things that nobody ever did before. People might have laughed then, but everybody doing it now. Ahead of his time.
He never took, and we will not ever take our audience for granted. These people pay a lot of money, and they come to Panorama to see Panorama, not to hear Panorama. You can see home and listen on the radio. Win, lose, or draw, they will remember Silver Stars.
When Edwin got sick, because I think in 2010 was when he, after the Panorama, he started to fall ill and he was in and out of hospital. It was like, all right, how are we gonna do this, boy? And Edwin worked magic through his music, but he also worked magic in life. But I don't think I ever seen Edwin put down that music. I remember the hospital beds. Edwin is lying down on a hospital bed. He would put his family out to really get the notes in. Edwin left the hospital. He came into Silver Stars. They drove the car straight into the yard. And when he came out, it took him a good bit of minutes to even get into the band to sit down. But the crowd, the players, there was this silence that was deafening where everybody just watched Edwin coming out of that car and walking. They brought him into the band. And the entire crowd, everybody just got silent to show how desperate or dedicated, depending how you look at it, that Edwin was to make sure that Silver Stars was taken care of. And as far as I'm concerned, and I make no apologies for saying it, Edwin went down to his last by putting Silver Stars first. It was all about Silver Stars before him, before his family, before anything I've ever seen. Everything for Edwin was Silver Stars. And his health and all, he put Silver Stars in front of that. And may I also point out that in 2011 and 2012, even though Silver Stars would have ran third those 2 years, and even though Edwin would have been in hospital and arranging music from the hospital, Edwin still won Panorama in those 2 years in medium with Cats and Jammers from the hospital bed, getting that results. So that is something that would have also been interesting. He won Panorama in the hospital.
I mean, Edwin falling ill was really and truly the worst thing that could happen. If Edwin didn't fall sick, I think he would have really and truly taken Silver Stars above and beyond. And we would have won many more titles. He would have won many more titles. He was so instrumental to every single thing that happened in the band that something like him just being sick and not coming to practice, like that presence not being there was immediately felt. Even though everybody did what they had to do, we still had the drill master, the players still came out, we still practiced the same music. Him not being around just wasn't the same. What was so amazing to me was the fact that the bond that he had with the players, like you could tell when Edwin did come practice and he probably wasn't feeling 100, that affected the players. Of course, when we had a gig or competitions, we gave 100%. But you could tell there was that bond there, that respect that they had for him, that, you know, he was such a father figure, a friend to the band. Silver Stars is like a family, that it felt like if a family member was ill. And then also too, we looking up to him and we leaning on him to carry us into these competitions and to know that he wasn't 100%, but giving us 100% of what he had. I mean, much respect to him for that. But it was difficult to see him ill. It was difficult to know that he could not do what he wanted to do. And I felt that it happened to him at the peak of everything that he worked for. So that was hard for us to see that happening to somebody that we love so much and somebody who we looked up to.
It's only death could make his man not perform. I tell you, because he would have been a wheelchair.
Like I said, Edwin was the captain, the leader, the manager, the arranger. Come like you lose the whole committee in one.
After Edwin's passing, it was a bit of mourning, but besides that, the band knew that we had to go on. Edwin is not about that stagnant lifestyle. It's forever forward, never backward. So, although it was difficult, we kept going. New management or not, the players knew what they had to do and we did what we had to do.
I remember when Chanel elevated to the captain role after the passing of Edwin, not everybody at the time really stood in her corner and gave her that support, which was unfortunate because I don't think Edwin was dumb. I think Edwin knew what he was doing and Edwin put things in place to ensure succession planning and continuity of the brand. Nobody is bigger than the band. We all gonna die one day or move on with our lives and Silver Stars will exist and function. And Edwin put Chanel there and had that done. And, you know, there were some people who couldn't agree with that, and that's fine. And some people would have moved on peacefully, some not so peacefully. But for me, I stood with Chanel at the time because I felt like it was the important thing to do to preserve Edwin's legacy. It was the important thing to do to preserve the name and the brand Silver Stars.
For me personally, the transition to Chanel, I transitioned to Chanel whilst being a section leader. So being a section leader, I had my responsibilities. Those never change. But with Chanel, she was more approachable than Edwin. So to me, it was an easy transition. It wasn't difficult. And all in all, Chanel is a good captain. So it works out.
Working with Chanel is the type that number one in Silver Stars.
Very good leader, natural born leader. Gives us advice that we might not want to hear, but it would help us improve ourselves. She rarely gets really upset at anyone.
You and Chanel will always be good as long as you don't do anything to sabotage Silver Stars or put Silver Stars in any disrepute.
Even feel certain emotions, like where she's upset with somebody and not particularly show it, but she always gets her point across.
You would have good living until you spoil your own good living. She would lie with you, she would buff you, everything.
So initially when I came to the band, I was scared of Chanel because she just had that aura, that sort of power, that leadership, that commanding spirit. And it is a bit intimidating when you now come in, but when you get to talk to Chanel and everything, you kind of get a little more relaxed. I mean, you still have that level of respect because she still demands that, and she's still a great leader.
Also, I think that her being a female captain is the best. But yeah.
I actually enjoy working with Chanel. Because I feel sometimes that is almost the same as Edwin. You don't wonder what they're thinking. And I'd rather somebody blurt out what they're thinking. Because Chanel and I don't always agree. But neither did Edwin and I. I've seen Chanel grow as a captain where she's learned a lot in the time that she's been the captain, the 10, 11 years or so that she's been the captain. She's learned a lot. And she's definitely grown. And I myself has grown because some of the things that I would accept now or tolerate, I would not have tolerated it back then. And I think together, Chanel and I made a great team. We've moved mountains to bring Silver Stars to where it is now and where we're heading. And I think Chanel is definitely a competent captain. Nobody knows what Chanel look like just like that. Like nobody knows. And Chanel don't even care. Because all she knows, she had to get the business of the band done. She don't care about her face being there, neither did Edwin. And being that person that doesn't necessarily care to be seen, she get a lot of work done. A lot more work done. Because it's not even about her face. It's not even about her voice. And Chanel is gonna move mountains. Trust and believe.
Becoming the captain after Edwin passed away was very difficult because that came like having to do the impossible. Edwin was everything in one. He was the captain, he was the arranger, he was the manager. He was just everything. He had a vision, he had a foresight. He was so ahead of his time. And how do you come after that person? You could never fill Edwin's shoes. I could never fill it. I don't think anybody could. So it was challenging for people to feel as if, you know, we now had Edwin and we now have Chanel. But it was definitely challenging for people to maybe view me in that role. It was challenging to get respect from players. But as time went on, and the thing with being a captain is you have to maybe prove that you're worth your salt. And I think over time, people came to realize that my main interest is what is best for the band. So after time of working with players, it became easier. It was hard to do all the things that he did. There were plenty of things that I didn't know had to be done that he just did and never told anybody about. So you're kind of finding out, you're learning as you're going along.
I became the drill master music director of Silver Stars. Well, although I was with Silver Stars for 17 years, I didn't start off as a drill master. I actually started off on a guitar pan. I was at UE studying music, and I started to work with other bands in terms of as a drill master. I would play with Silver Stars for stage side and competitions, but I would also drill other bands in other categories and other competitions. And 2015, the management of Silver Stars Chanel would have contacted me and asked me if I'm willing to take up the challenge of drilling Silver Stars. At the time, I had never drilled a large band. I felt like it was a David and Goliath situation. But I was like, I had some titles behind my name already and I had the experience. So I was like, well, let's go. But I was distributing the music for Silver Stars, and then I started drilling after that. And it was supposed to actually be for Panorama. The drilling was supposed to be me for Panorama, and the stage side would continue to operate normal. And by 2016, I came to teach one song, and then I never left that day. It just stage side, panorama. I became a delegate for Silver Stars at Pan Trinbago meetings. Then I ran for Pan Trinbago and everything just started cascade.
Marcus, when you meet people, you tend to realize that they know what they're talking about and you trust anything they say. So Marcus is one of those people, from the time you meet him, you know that he is about his business.
I would say he's a fair person when it comes to music, when it comes to additional music or directing the band. You know, if you do nonsense, he will pay up for it. If you do a good job, he will let you know you do a good job. So it's just a matter of what you do and how you do it.
He's always mentioned the fact that it's not your fault, it's about how you get back up. And he's really preached that. And he's really lived that, because you were cussing now and then you catch back yourself and you say, yeah, life goes on. And you get cussed and you live after. That's what that's on the whole. You get buff and then afterwards, when practice on everybody, sit down, they play some cards, they drink, they lime, and everybody cool afterwards.
When come time for business, it's business. And after that, it's fun. You don't try to mix the two, because then that's where you end up in problems.
I appreciate Marcus because I let him know that, you know, I love arranging, or you know, and he gave me chances to actually drill the band sometimes if he's not there, or allow me to give digital music or even share my own music and so on. Just by watching him drill the band, I learned a lot of stuff from him, really. So I would say working with Marcus has been really good. He and I have a good relationship, and he taught me a lot of stuff. He showed me a lot of stuff with pan and music and so on.
Marcus is a man, when it comes to being serious, he's very serious. When it comes to what we have to do, it's time to get down to work. It's quite enjoyable. It's when things go left, he may be, you know, adverse. But one thing I do want to say about Marcus is I asked Marcus to come and help me put down about 2 tunes. And that was about 8 years ago. And Marcus never left. I asked him to do me that favor, and he's still doing me that favor. And Marcus is the kind of person, he's a very giving person. When you think about it, you always see Marcus helping somebody with their music work, helping somebody. Anything you ask Marcus for, Marcus will always say yes. I think we share the same values that Edwin had, and we share the same love for the band. And we both, while we might differ on some things, we always come together because we have the same goal in mind, which is we always put the band first. So that makes working with him very easy for me. Edwin's style had become so synonymous with a Silver Star style that finding that right fit to get someone to be the new arranger, I knew that it would have been challenging and it was a trial and error. But what made me decide to go with Kersh Ojay was I knew that the band needed a new arranger. And Jelani had recommended Kersh. And he had mentioned to me amongst the different things that were the attributes to his style of arranging, that there was something similar to things that we liked about Edwin's style, as Kersh had worked with Edwin before in Cats and Germans. So he said, you know, you have to take a listen to this boy, you know. I said, yeah, okay, I will do that. And I actually went down to the Panorama small band with the intention of going to listen to Kersh. And walking through the crowd, I bounced up Ojay's band. And I didn't know who Ojay was, and I didn't know what band it was. But when I heard what they were playing, I said, who's this? She told me who it is. I said, no, there's a Panorama winning tune. And he ended up coming and winning Panorama. And I listened to Kersh, and I heard everything that Jelani was telling me about Kersh. I said, boy, it's songing to me like it's between the two of them. And luckily for me, they decided to work together and I didn't have to choose. That's how we ended up with Kersh and Ojay together.
Working with Kersh and Ojay is easy. I remember telling Chanel when the conversation about Kersh and Ojay came up, I was like, this is gonna be easy because I know them and I know them on a street level. And that was important because it means that if I have to critique the music, we could have that chemistry, we could talk and say, I like that one day. And then they being in Tobago, they just fly over or sail over and they come and they do their own thing. And working with them is easy. They do their scoring thing, they pick out their arrangement, they send it to me, distribute.
Oh, Kersh and Ojay are excellent. They meshed well with the band, period.
When the director of services mentioned that we have a new addition to the arrangers, I know we were in good hands because I knew Kersh personally with his arrangements and Ojay. So colliding with two of them, I think it was a good hand-picked arrangers for Silver Stars. Having youth arrangers, youth players, it really goes together.
I think that their music is really lively and upbeat, and it keeps with the theme of Silver Stars.
What I like about working with them is the creative process that we have. And when we now had decided we were going to work with Kersh and Ojay, interestingly enough, Kersh and Ojay had never worked together before. So we decided that we would do some trial runs with some tunes and get the band familiar with their style, they get familiar with our style. And what's he saying? When you make plans, God laugh. Then COVID came. And then Taste of Carnival came, and they never did any of those plans that we had. And the first song they ever did together was Out and Bad. And interestingly enough, the second song they ever did was Engine Room. So I mean, it just goes to show the chemistry that they have and how well they work together. And I think that we work together quite well with them. So working with them has been nothing short of great, and I think we have a lot more good things to come.
What I want to hope to see that my skipper, Chanel Pouchet, win a Panorama. You understand? That's one of the basic things I just play around with she. Yeah, because I really want she to win a Panorama. And I bet I know she's going to win a Panorama.
I've been in Silver Stars for the last 15 years. I've won 2 Panoramas, 2009, 2010, under Mr. Edwin Pouchet. 2 winning compositions, first in the line battles. Well, for me back then in the band, there were certain vibrations and feelings going through the band with the music. And nowadays, as we will see in 2023, I believe that vibration is back in full effect. Silver Stars is back with our band.
When Edwin asked me to take over the band, he asked me to make sure that the pan yard was a safe place where young people could come and learn to play pan and feel comfortable. I think that we have achieved that since he's passed. But it's very important for me that the legacy of Silver Stars lives on, the way that it was from Junior to Edwin, what I'm trying to carry on and into the future. He never asked me to win Panorama. I'd like to see the band win Panorama. I'd like to see the band continue to be successful. I'd like to see the band continue to bring to the table what we've always brought to the table. Diversity in our selection of music that we play. I would like us to keep on bringing the quality performances that we are known for. I want us to continue the discipline that we have. So what I want for Silver Stars to really do in the future is maintain the standard that was set and keep it at that level. It's a responsibility at the end of the day. You have to lead these young people in the right direction. Silver Stars is a band that have a lot of morals, values that we respect and we have in the rules of the band. And it is very rewarding at the end of the day, no matter how stressful it may be, dealing with the young people. It's very rewarding when you see that you have a player who came here as a young person. You see their progression, you see their growth, you see them getting better at playing pan, you see them graduate from university, you see them go away. So I would say at the end of the day, it does have its challenges, but it's rewarding. I'm very invested in youth development and music. I think it's very important to continue pushing the youths to be involved in band, to keep being interested in band. I love the fact that we have a lot of young people who in university studying music. I like the fact that we have young arrangers who went to university and studied music. And I think that that's the direction I'd like to see continue for the band. It's very important for me that the band stays at the same level that it was at. It's very important for me that the band continues to be a force to be reckoned with. Important for me that when Silver Stars go to play on a gig, that everybody knows what they're gonna get. Nobody have to wonder if Silver Stars gonna bring their A game. It's very important for me that we have a lot of young people that we could bring up any traditions that we already know so that we could pass it on. The most important thing for me is that the legacy will continue long after I'm gone.